not all that long ago, um, because of students coming to me and having these breakthroughs and this transmission becoming more and more powerful, that helped when people would come with suffering, with have them have these great healings, and also these breakthroughs that they would have, and even people waking up in their own right around me when they came for individual instruction and even in satsangs. So after a while, I began to feel like kind of like a really awakened dude. And after various teachers started commenting on this as well, I felt more awake than most people, like really, yeah, it just seemed happening from what people would say and what students would say and what other teachers would say. And I started believing this myself. I started sort of accepting this myself. What would accept something like this? Well, of course, it can only be ego, right? It can only be ego that would feel this. So I was starting to feel a very subtle sense of pride, not as I felt before I was awake, but something was feeling that. And of course, the ego likes that feeling of pride. It likes that, so it doesn't really comment on it and see anything wrong with it. And at the same time, there was this other little subtle sense of loneliness that was coming in, because I felt like I was sort of like on the top of a mountain, on the pinnacle of a mountain, and there wasn't anybody else around, at least nobody I knew, and mostly not anybody that was still alive. So there was a little subtle sense of loneliness, not much, but a little subtle sense of it. And when you feel something like this, pride, loneliness, these things, that can only be ego. It's a subtle sense of suffering, and it can only be ego, right? To feel like that. To feel like I'm awake and other people are not awake. I'm enlightened and other people are not enlightened. Some people are enlightened, some people are not enlightened. This sense which comes from duality and illusion, right? And everybody feels this. Some people are enlightened or not. That's why we like the Buddha. Well, the Buddha's enlightened. I'm not going to go to my garbage collector or the pharmacist and ask him for spiritual advice. I'll go to the Buddha. He's the one that's awake, which makes sense to do this. But we're missing something extremely important. And this is the first thing that the Buddha acknowledged upon awakening, was that all beings have Buddha nature. Every being has Buddha nature. It's just that they don't realize it. So I'd known this for 20, 30 years, this comment, and accepted it and believed it. But I never really felt it. I never really directly experienced that. Directly experienced that all beings have Buddha nature. All beings are fully, absolutely fully enlightened. It's not that the Buddha is more enlightened than you. No. All beings are fully enlightened, 100% absolutely fully enlightened. You, Buddha, Jesus, Ramana Maharshi, me, nobody is not absolutely fully enlightened. And this includes an ant. An ant is fully enlightened. A dog is fully enlightened. A tree is fully enlightened. No being, nothing is not absolutely fully enlightened, is not fully the true nature, Buddha nature, enlightened nature. Nothing is not that. A blade of grass is fully enlightened. So when Joshua said that, when someone asked, does a dog have Buddha nature? And Joshua said, no, that's why it was so astounding. And it shook the heavens to say this, because that no didn't say, no, a dog doesn't have Buddha nature. Everything has Buddha nature. This is the nature of reality. Everything has absolutely the same Buddha nature. Not one nature higher than another nature. Exactly the same nature. exactly the same nature. Your nature and Buddha's nature, exactly the same nature. Your nature and the nature of Jesus, exactly the same nature. Not a millimeter of difference, no difference whatsoever. So when Jashu said no, what he really was saying is like, no dog. There's just Buddha nature. No you to ask this question, just Buddha nature. Everything is Buddha nature. Everything is enlightenment. So upon realizing this, really realizing it, not just believing it or thinking, but really directly experiencing this, all that subtle pride and loneliness, even though it was a light, just vanished. You are fully and absolutely enlightened. Buddha level enlightenment, Ramana level enlightenment, all absolutely fully enlightened. There is no separation between you, Buddha, Ramana, me, Dogen, Bodhidharma, all the same enlightenment, all the same enlightened nature, all the same truth. It's just that you may not realize it now. That's all. You may not realize it right now. Or maybe you do. Maybe even in this moment you do. Maybe for the very first time you do. But whether you do or not, it doesn't change that you are fully enlightened, that you are enlightened nature, and that your enlightened nature is not a higher enlightened nature than that of an ant or that of a dog. If you have a dog, your dog is also fully enlightened nature. It's just that your dog thinks it's a dog. So it buries bones, barks, chases its tail. It does dog things. And yet it is also fully enlightened nature. The ant crawling across your kitchen counter is fully enlightened nature. Just as you are. Just as you are. So that's something I felt like sharing with you today. And also a kind of confession on my part. You know, I don't know how long ago I felt like that. I don't count years, but it wasn't all that long ago, a number of years ago, that I felt this subtle pride and this subtle sense of loneliness of being more awake than most people are. You know, and to relative truth, this is true. In the relative world of duality, this would seem to be true. That's why all these students and other teachers were saying this. Relatively, this was true. But it's not really truth. And to believe a relative truth only leads to suffering. No matter how subtle, it's still a form of suffering. Pride and loneliness are a form of suffering. Truth has no suffering in it. So if you feel even the most subtle sense of suffering, something is not true. Your realization of reality is not present in that moment. You're believing something that's not true. So yes, already you are fully enlightened and always have been and could not ever be anything other than this. As a fetus, you were fully enlightened. The very moment of your birth, you were fully enlightened. And you have been all the way up to this time. You cannot escape it. You cannot realize it. You cannot directly experience it because your mind is in the way. Your beliefs and your conditioning are in the way. Even beliefs, you know, in Zen, we look up to the Buddha. Oh, the Buddha, wonderful, wonderful. Not realizing that we are the Buddha. That there is no separation whatsoever. And that is a kind of conditioning that prevents us from realizing our true nature. Well, there's Jesus in me. right? We're two separate things. Jesus and me, we're two separate things. No, there's no separation at all. Buddha and me, two separate things. No, there's no separation at all. That's a dream. That's an illusion. That's what's keeping us from realizing our true nature. That's what's standing in the way of our realization of reality and our realization of what we are. You are fully enlightened in this moment and always. No matter what you feel, no matter what you realize, no matter what you experience, you still are fully enlightened. It is your very nature. Your dream of who you are is not your nature, it's a dream. Your nature is fully enlightened. The nature of all beings is fully enlightened. And why I love you absolutely and completely is because of this. Because that is your true nature. You cannot help but love true nature, wherever it appears and however it appears, this very same true nature as you. Because there's no separation in seeing this. There's no separation in seeing reality. And that's why there's this unconditional love that's always here. Because you see things as they are. And you see things as you. Your true nature and the true nature of everything in existence is exactly the same. There is no separation whatsoever. So it's fine to look up to Buddha, Jesus, Ramana, Dogen, other teachers as kind of a role or a guidance or something that you, a pointer. But don't forget that that's you. That's you. You are fully enlightened. You are Buddha. You are Jesus. You are Ramana. You are Dogen. There is absolutely no separation between you. This is your true nature. Your true nature, the true nature of Buddha, the true nature of Dogen, the true nature of Ramana Maharshi is your true nature too. There is only one true nature. And that true nature is you.